Jamie was a little lovable rogue. He'd go out and play, come in, put his arms around my neck, kiss me on my cheeks, say, "Mum, I love you." Even though I had other children, there was just something there with Jamie. He was so lovable.
8-year-old Jamie Lavis lives with his mum Karen, dad John, and 4 siblings in a suburb of Manchester called Openshaw.
Bit of a rundown area, but friendly people. Everybody got on with each other. Family life was hectic because the dad, John, worked nights, sometimes days as well, so I basically had the kids, but they were good. They went to school. They were good kids.
We was one of them sort of families that we would all stay together. We'd be in the park or chasing Jamie around the estate. We'd try to get him in to come in for tea. Openshaw was amazing, to be fair. We had a lot of family and friends around.
He'd follow them. He was like a little lapdog, Jamie. He'd follow them everywhere. If Jane was going out to see her friends, he'd be behind her.
Every time we went out, I couldn't go out on my own. If my mum said he wasn't allowed out, he'd climb out the window, jump down the drain pipe and follow me. So then I'd have to bring him all the way back home.
The youngest of the Lavis children, Aaron, was born after his brother Jamie's disappearance.
I never got to meet him, and it would have been nice to meet him, do you know what I mean? Because I could have been growing up at the same time as him.
Jamie used to go to Quick Save across the road, go to the old people and say, "Can I put your basket back?" And they'd give him the pound for putting the basket back. That was Jamie. He'd help anybody.
Jamie's cheeky personality and loving nature endears him to everyone in the tight-knit community of Openshaw. Everybody who knows him loves him, but no more so than his older brother, John.
There was 2 years between them, but they did everything together. They went out playing together, and I'll never forget the day it happened, to be honest. It was 5th of May 1997, Bank Holiday Monday, and Jamie went out with his brother John. It was about, I'd say about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I shouted to say, "Your breakfast." John come in and said, "Where's Jamie?" "He's over at Quick Save." I said, "Well, we go and get him." He said he's not coming in. So I left it for a bit longer, and then John said, "Mummy's not there." This must have been about an hour after. He said he's not there. I assumed he'd gone off and played with one of his friends. I didn't get concerned or anything. I did at the night time when it got tea time-ish and he weren't in. We were knocking on Jamie's friends' doors, walking around the streets. We couldn't find him anywhere. It was like he'd disappeared off the face of the earth. Just didn't know what to do.
From 6 o'clock to my dad coming home at 10 o'clock, I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't drink, I was just walking and walking looking for my brother and couldn't find him nowhere. And that's when we said there was something not right.
And I had to wait till John come home from work that night, and he said, "What's up?" I said, "I haven't seen Jamie all day and I don't know what to do." So we rang the police at 10 o'clock and police come out.
I was the local beat officer, and it came over the radio that a young boy was missing from the Openshaw area and we should keep an eye out for him whilst on patrol. He wasn't wearing his school uniform because it was a bank holiday Monday. He was in fact wearing grey joggers, a t-shirt and a dark green Parker-type coat. The family were panicking because he was scared to go out in the dark. He always came home for his tea, and it wasn't normal for him not to turn up and for his friends not to know where he was. They were very, very concerned.
Jamie's only 8 years old, and the police know there's no time to waste. They mobilise all the manpower they have available.
Well, the police, they checked with local hospitals to see if he'd been injured and taken to a hospital. They had patrol cars driving about to his friends' houses. They were phoning people that knew him, but nobody knew where he was. And by this time, the whole family, including John and Karen, were crying their eyes out and looking to me to do something.
Well, when all the police and everything was out, that was it then. It was like torture. It was like someone had literally stabbed you in the chest and trying to pull the knife out, but it just wouldn't come out.
Jamie wasn't a child who liked the dark. He'd be at home, he liked his food, he liked to be warm. And this is what I couldn't understand. Where was he? Why hadn't he come home?
I didn't say anything to them, but my immediate concern was that he must have been absolutely terrified. But I didn't say that to the family. I said we will look for him and find him. I had to do my best to reassure them because they were breaking down.
The police need to consider every eventuality.
He's a child, he's vulnerable. He's vulnerable because of train lines running through. If he decides to play on the railway lines like children do, they do. And there's a canal. He falls in the canal and drowns. So it becomes a dangerous situation for his safety.
And there are other, even more frightening dangers to young children.
Who else is out there? There are predators. Predators who will see a little boy, and if they see him on his own long enough, he becomes again a target or a possible target. So it all heightens.
Hours turn to days in the search for Jamie.
But then it all starts to calm a little bit because he's being seen. Not once a day, not twice a day, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day he's being seen. By people who know him. And that was why I became involved. Get him back safely to his family. If there was an area where he was seen, there'd be local officers dispatched immediately, and then we would have dog patrols who would go up and have a look. If there was horses in that area, they would go, especially over open land, if he was seen in parkland or in big playgrounds around there. If the helicopter was free, that would fly across and try and pick him up. That's the sort of effort that was going in.
Police Constable Asif Hussain is assigned as the Lavis family liaison officer.
That means that you will keep them updated on the police investigation, and you will also provide us with any information the family might remember about Jamie or where he might have gone. So I was there as a supportive person. As a friend, even though I was a police officer, I was more of a friend.
As well as supporting the family, PC Hussain is well aware he needs to keep his eyes and ears open. More often than not, when a child goes missing, the answers lie closer to home.
The SIO Roy Rainford told me to investigate the family to see if they had any involvement with Jamie's disappearance. So I questioned them over and over again about the same thing.
They was asking, had we had an argument? I'd have shouted at him, I'd have smacked him. I said I'd never raised my hand to my children. That's something I've never done. I know I hadn't. Jamie was a child where you didn't have to shout at him.
The family were in a state of shock, crying, not eating. And the oldest daughter was trying to make them eat things to keep the strength up, but they were refusing to eat because they just felt sick, physically sick.
Them 2 days was heart-wrenching, wondering where he was because it was dark. Was he cold? Was he hungry? Did he have clothes?
And I didn't suspect that anybody, John Lavis or Karen Spooner, were involved with the disappearance of Jamie Lavis. And I said that to Roy Rainford, absolutely no chance were they involved.
The search, it went from helicopters, knocking on people's houses, and 2 days after we got a knock on the door off Darren Vickers.
Darren Vickers is a local bus driver who lives just a few streets away from the Lavis family. he arrives with some welcome news.
He'd said he'd had him on the buzz that day. I thought he was a friend, thought he was giving us some information we needed.
He came and knocked on their door when I wasn't there and said, "I believe I'm the last person to have seen your son." And I thought, why would you say, "I believe I'm the last person to have seen your son"? You wouldn't say that. You would say, "I think your son was on my bus." So I immediately went to Roy Rainford and he said, "What do you think of Steve?" I said, "Boss, he's #1 suspect."
That's what you call a policeman's nose. If it twitches like that, it needs just a little bit more digging. Right, okay, so we'll have a closer look at him. Who is Darren Vickers?
So I got Karen to arrange for Darren to come to the house and then I would meet him there. And then I met Darren, shook his hand, said hello, thanks for coming forward. Can you tell us anything about Jamie, where he may have gone? And Darren said that he used to get on the bus on a regular basis and travel up and down on the bus because he liked it. And he became friends with him. Jamie Lavis would look at Darren Vickers like an uncle. And because he'd been with him several times on the bus each week for a few weeks, he trusted him.
He was trusting of the bus driver. It's a position of trust and respectability and authority to a certain extent as well. When Vickers, he targeted a young boy, a young trusting boy that was innocent.
The police are becoming suspicious of Darren's motives, but the Lavis family feel differently.
Darren Vickers, within 1 week, had become a superhero to that family because he was taking them out in his car, using his own petrol. He was buying them sweets, cigarettes, sometimes cans of beer. He also bought their son, John Lavis, a bike, which he never had a bike, and he was absolutely made up with that. And he also dealt with members of the press when I wasn't present.
He was holding his own press conferences. He was on telly nearly every night.
We honestly thought he was helping us. We honestly did think he was helping us.
When Vickers appears to the Lavis' family, he's a hand of friendship, a helping individual, someone that's going to help them find out where their son is. They're vulnerable. They've lost a son. The whole family is distraught and they turn to anyone that could help.
The police are trawling through hours of footage from multiple CCTV cameras, looking for a sighting of Jamie. Suddenly, they strike gold.
We've got a CCTV of Darren Vickers at Ashton-under-Lyne bus station talking to Jamie, of Jamie swinging on the bus rails, not of the actual bus, but within the confines of the station. And Darren Vickers is talking to him, and then they both disappear off camera to where the bus would be parked.
Police arrest Darren Vickers on suspicion of abducting Jamie and bring him in for questioning.
Vickers told us that he had taken him on his bus, he'd had him on his bus. He'd then, at the end of his shift, taken him up to the bus depot, which was in Hyde. He'd then put Jamie in his own car, and Vickers had then driven him in his own car back to Openshaw, but he drops him on the opposite side of this main road, not at his home.
The police haven't got enough to charge him.
Yes, he got mixed up, he'd lied, he was frightened, but didn't know where the boy was. Didn't know, so we had to let him go with no evidence to keep him.
But they are far from happy with Vickers' story and concerned about the amount of control he seems to have over the Lavis family.
He very quickly became a family member. In fact, he even moved in with them. Left his wife and children, 2 children, because he thought it would be easier to stay with them and help them get through this difficult time.
When we arrested him and then released him, Karen and John held a party. We were vilified. Who is this guy? Why has he infiltrated the family? Why has he got control over them?
We look back when we first got arrested and think, why didn't we think like the police thought? You don't think like that. Any help when you've lost a child, you'll accept it.
Lavis's family were vulnerable at that time, and he exploited that. He exploited their vulnerability and was able to progress and get himself so close to them, they didn't even trust the police.
Unusual for the police, their prime suspect is also the face of the media campaign to find Jamie.
We're into this inquiry now, approximately 4 to 6 weeks. And what have we got? We've got a major line of inquiry with Darren Vickers. The family still think he's a hero. He's infiltrated them so deeply, he's living with them. He's controlling everything that they do and everything that the community are doing to search.
The police become aware that Vickers is using a scanner to listen in to the police dispatch calls.
The shopkeeper rang the police and said, I think I've had Jamie in my shop. So the police send it out over there. You get to such an address. Vickers is listening in. He's at the shop before with Karen and John, and he's looking at a video. They're saying, look, it's Jamie, it's got to be Jamie, that. He's getting to sightings that are reported to us before we can get to them. And he's taking family members there and persuading them that the children that are seen at these sightings are in fact Jamie. Now the question I ask you is, if you were his mum and dad, would you want that to be your little boy? Yes, you would.
We'd be out in our car looking, he'd be out in his, and we'd get phone calls saying, oh, there's been a sighting at Bellevue Docks. So we go down to Bellevue Docks. Look there, and because we were that devastated, we actually believed it was Jamie on the camera.
This isn't the only trick Darren Vickers has up his sleeve to hamper the police investigation and deflect suspicion away from himself.
John Lavis, Jamie's brother, was 10 and he looked very similar to Jamie. So Darren Vickers took John Lavis out to different locations in and around Manchester and deliberately took him to where shoppers could see him, who then reported sightings to the police, saying they had seen Jamie Lavis. That would take the pressure off Darren Vickers if they thought Jamie Lavis was still alive. Karen was so ingratiated with Darren Vickers that she trusted him more than me. In fact, one day I said to Karen, why are you listening to this fella when I'm the family liaison officer, your friend, and I'm from the police, and I'm looking for Jamie, and you think he's doing more than me? And she said, he's trying to help us. And I said, no, he's not.
Darren Vickers is the police's #1 suspect for 8-year-old Jamie's disappearance. And now his sisters start to realise he's becoming close with their 10-year-old brother, John, too.
We moved him into our house because we thought he was a friend. But my daughters, my 2 daughters, they had a feeling something wasn't right because he paid more attention to John, little John, than he did to them.
John Lavis's attitude changed towards me. When Darren Vickers moved in that house, he isolated himself in his own room, isolated himself from his own family. He had nothing to do with anybody except Darren Vickers.
This was the nice man that was buying John a bike, that was taking him for walks, that was buying him gifts. He felt guilty for what happened to Jamie because he was supposed to be looking after him. And Vickers targeted that vulnerability.
Vickers was spending a lot of time with that other boy, and there is no doubt that he was grooming that other boy, and my biggest fear was that he was going to kill him.
With not enough evidence to charge him, police are becoming increasingly frustrated.
The situation was so dangerous for the Lavis family, and especially John Lavis. I was so concerned about him. I went to that house nearly every day for 9 months. I didn't have any holidays. My own family suffered because I wasn't there. I couldn't let anything happen to John Lavis. He was a 10-year-old, vulnerable, manipulated, frightened young boy who loved Darren Vickers. As the investigation went on, Darren Vickers was taking Jamie Lavis's friends, little children, aged 7 and 8, girls and boys, along with Karen, to various locations. And then I would get told where those locations were, and then I would report back to the incident room, and then the incident room would then arrange to search those locations. We needed to get Darren Vickers off the streets to keep people safe, especially small children.
The breakthrough starts to come. We do some research and we find that Darren Vickers has got outstanding warrants for various motoring offences. So we go to arrest him on that.
I went to the house and Karen said, "We don't know where he's gone. He said he's going away for a few days." I said, "Do you know where?" He said, "No idea, but he said he just needed to get away from here. The pressure was too much for him." Darren Vickers just disappeared. So I reported this to the incident room and they said, "You need to find him." So we started inquiries and then eventually we got information to say that he was working on a fairground in Rill. So myself and another officer drove down there in CID clothing, suit and tie. We got out of the car and then we walked across to the fairground and I saw Darren Vickers on one of the rides, a children's ride, and I walked across to him. And then a few fairground people got in my way, said, "We know what you are." I said, "Yeah, from Greater Manchester Police." They said, "We know what you're doing." I said, "And what am I doing?" He said, "You're here hassling him for non-payment of fines." I said, "Is that what he's told you?" They said, "Yeah, that's what he's told us." I said, "Well, I'd like to tell you that he's responsible for the disappearance of an 8-year-old boy called Jamie Lavis." And at that point, they all moved away. I walked through and Darren Vickers said, "Oh, don't a thief." And I handcuffed him, said, "You're under arrest."
He goes to prison for 10 weeks. So he's out of the picture and that's frustrating him because he can't control us.
So the 10 weeks in custody give us more time to conduct further inquiries into the disappearance of Jamie Lavis. And I felt happy that the public was safe.
With Vickers out of the picture, police continue to build their case against him, and their investigations into Jamie's journey on his bus are moving the case forward.
We traced quite a number of people who'd been on that bus at different times of the day, and the same picture came back from each and every one. They all thought that Jamie was the bus driver's son because he was giving him that much rain. He was allowing him to just run riot on the bus. Run up and down the bus singing, letting him count the fare, letting him change gear.
And then comes the breakthrough.
We then look at his alibi and we find out where he was on that night, and we interview different people who he put forward what he was doing from the time that he'd finished his shift onwards. And we got a number of statements which appeared to corroborate that alibi until, of course, one of the people who he'd alibied decided to tell us that he'd been coerced into doing that by Vickers. And that's when it started to fall apart.
Police decide they have enough circumstantial evidence to charge Vickers with Jamie's abduction.
We still didn't know where Jamie was. We were still getting the odd sighting of Jamie. This is in October. From May, we were still getting sightings in October. So we still couldn't prove that anything had happened to him, but we still can't find him.
In my heart, I was hoping and praying he was okay and he'd come home. And it sounds stupid, this, but to this day I still think he's going to walk through the door. And I've never said that to nobody.
With Vickers' story unravelling, the family can't ignore the facts anymore.
The whole family's perspective of Darren Vickers changed. They didn't look at him like a hero anymore. Karen started to believe that Darren Vickers was responsible for the disappearance of her son. And I was delighted that she said that. She said, "I should have believed you from the start." I said, "I know you should."
The investigation team hears from members of the public. Darren Vickers has been approaching more children.
They were just there playing in the park during the day. He turned up with a photograph of Jamie Lavis. So Vickers is stood there with a photograph of Jamie Lavis, approaches his two children, said, "I'm looking for him. Do you know about this?" He said, "I'm looking for him. He's been missing for ages, and I think I've seen him going up there. Come and help me to search for him, will you?" And he points towards this densely wooded area. These two children are looking at each other, and they run off. They're frightened, run off. And they went back home and told the parents. The parents reported to the police.
The police realise they have a potential location for Jamie.
So we got another area to search, but it was just at that time another area to search. It was just going to be an extremely difficult one because of the density of the foliage. Still no wiser that it was going to be a scene, but it had to be searched and either implicated or eliminated from the inquiry.
Detective Superintendent Rainford knows that to search this kind of terrain, he'll need specialist help.
PULSA is a band of officers that are specially trained to search. So whenever we've got any searching, we use them. But they're not specifically trained in urban searching. So when we get to the Reddish Vale, this deeply wooded area, it was more of an area for PULSA to have a look at.
With his expert team assembled, DSI Rainford puts his plan into action.
We were going to use a helicopter to fly over and see if we could see any obvious signs. But the weather was that bad, and the PULSA sergeant suggested, could they come on foot? Yes, go and have a look. See what you can find, there's nothing lost. And they went in, and we discover a wax jacket and a pair of jogging pants.
The police realised that the clothes matched the description of what Jamie was wearing when he disappeared.
So we then got the exhibits officer down, and he came down and he scooped up this clothing, which was absolutely sopping wet because it had rained heavily, and took it back to the police station at Greymere Lane, told me that he'd got it and spread it out to dry, and then came back and said, "I found a jawbone." And I went down to look at it. Looked human to me, but I'm not a pathologist, so get hold of the forensic pathologist who'd been assisting me, who I knew well, and he confirmed it was human, that it was the right size for a boy of Jamie's age, and it had one tooth in it. I've got a scene now. I've got a human jawbone which looks as though it possibly is Jamie's. He's been missing long enough for him to deteriorate and decompose that much.
The police assign a team to carry out a full search of the area.
They take the top 2 inches of soil off an area the side of a football pitch in that sort of undergrowth, and we find lots of human bones. And there is a lot of major bones that are missing. The skull was missing, So we'd only got basically spine, pelvis, pubic bone, and we had the jawbone, of course, with the tooth in. And what we want is DNA.
And they confirmed it. They found the remains of Jamie Lavis.
I got a phone call, can we go to Jamie Lavis police station when we was being picked up? So I said, why? He said, we just need to see you. And there was police posted outside the house at the time, so my stomach just dropped. I thought, why is the police standing outside my house? We got to Jamie Lavis police station. He said, we need to tell you this before tomorrow morning, before it gets released to the press. So I said, what is it? He said, we've found remains, human remains. They said the remains were Jamie's. And I just collapsed. Coming out of that police station and knowing we had to go home and tell our children, it was a good job John's mum was there at the time, or else I don't think we would have coped with it. I never got to say goodbye, I never got... Sorry. Why did he do what he needed to do? Abduct him, kill him, why? Why do that to a child?
The forensic pathologist couldn't distinguish what had killed Jamie because there wasn't enough of Jamie left for him to do a proper post-mortem on it.
Then police received some new, damning evidence.
We got some information from HM Prison Strangeways where Vickers was locked up, and a prisoner in there informed the prison staff, who informed us, that Vickers had told him that he killed Jamie and that he'd thrown away the arms and legs and skull into the river. Nobody, but nobody, knew, outside the inquiry, knew that we hadn't found a full body. So how did he know that? And that was one of the final nails.
The police finally have the evidence they need.
We arrested Vickers for murder on the 23rd of November, 1997.
They have Vickers where they want him. Now he has to account for his actions.
Darren Vickers said that Jamie died on the bus when he braked heavily when a car cut across at some traffic lights. Panicked and put Jamie's body in his car, took him to Reddishvale Golf Club and left him in the forest near the river.
But the police know he's lying.
That can't be true, because in the remains of the grey joggers was a golf ball, which is significant. I believe what happened was Jamie Lavis walked across the golf course, found the golf ball on the grass, he put it in his pocket, and he was perfectly healthy at that time. And when he reached the river in the forest, that's when Darren Vickers sexually assaulted and killed Jamie Lavis.
The police know they need a watertight case against Vickers.
We all wanted that perfect end, which was to actually prove without any sort of doubt something of Jamie's DNA, which sealed it.
So while the police prepare their case for trial, the Lavis family are finally able to lay Jamie to rest.
The funeral was massive. The streets were lined going up to the church.
So you had to have speakers outside the church because there was that many people. My mum had collapsed when the funeral car pulled up. We told her that the funeral car was outside, that was it, she just dropped. There was a lot of very, very nice people there, people that we thought that wouldn't even think about helping us. And there was that many people there, it was unreal. And if it wasn't for them to be there, I don't think my mum would be here today.
Darren Vickers' trial begins at Manchester Crown Court.
We did a professional and in-depth investigation which should be done and must be done on every murder inquiry. You leave no stone unturned and you follow it to an nth degree until you're satisfied. And once you're satisfied and once you've got what you believe and the evidence tells you is the right person, you've got enough evidence to put them in front of a court, that's your job done.
Vickers, despite the overwhelming evidence against him and his previous admissions, denies any involvement whatsoever in Jamie's abduction and murder.
Darren Vickers, at the Crown Court trial, tried to look at the Lavis family, and the Lavis family didn't look back at him. So for the rest of the case, I remember Darren Vickers looking away. He never turned round and looked at me or them again.
Every case that you put in front of a court, you are as confident as you can be that you've done everything that you can do to present the evidence that you've got. A jury trial is a lottery because people come from different backgrounds, they have different biases. That's the human element in the British judicial system.
I wasn't nervous, I wasn't concerned, because I could see when the evidence was being given, members of the jury nodding their head. It's sorrow for the family.
When the jury went out, part of me thought he was going to get away with it.
And when they came back and said guilty, I was very pleased, not only for myself, for the police team, but mainly for the Lavis family.
When we got the verdict, I couldn't believe it.
But before Vickers is sentenced, he does something no one is expecting.
The following morning, I had a telephone call from one of the lads. He said, I'm sorry to bother you, Tom boss. He said, but I've just had the prison on. Darren Vickers wants to speak to you. I took a tape recorder and the DC who worked closely with me on the case came with me and we interviewed Vickers at Strangeways Prison, and he admitted to me that he had killed Jamie. He admitted how he'd killed Jamie and where he had done it and when he had done it. There was another hearing, and at the end of that hearing the judge said, I'll take this into consideration. Your confession.
Darren Vickers is sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Jamie Lavis and ordered to spend a minimum of 25 years in prison.
Justice for Jamie was given out, but it won't bring Jamie back. Karen and John and the brothers and sisters lost a lovely little boy who never did any harm to anybody.
In a way, it was justice. In a way, it wasn't, because eventually he'd get out. He don't deserve to come out.
For the Lavis family, the pain never goes away.
At the beginning of this year, I got a phone call from probation asking if they could come and see me. He's up for an appeal in October. He's done 25 years. We need you to write a victim impact statement. I just said I don't want him to walk the streets again because he will hurt another child, and I don't want another family to go through what we've gone through, because it will happen again. I've just been diagnosed with PTSD because I'm having nightmares, because I know he's due out, and I'm having nightmares going through what my Jamie went through. Why did he do it? He had his own children. Why do it? He's got to be sick.
Is he a manipulator? Is he dangerous? Yeah? Is he conniving, bad man? And do you think he's lost all that? No. Do you think he's still dangerous when he's going to be released? My humble opinion, yes he is. You don't lose that feeling. Paedophile is a paedophile. And the question I ask whoever's going to release him, would you let him sit with your children? Would you let him to look after your children? Would you let them take him for a walk? And if you would, well, you've got a clear conscience. If you wouldn't, why are you letting him out?
This is a person who is a very high risk of harm to the public and someone who, sadly, will kill again.
Darren Vickers enjoyed seeing the deprivation that he caused the Jamie Lavis family. And I know that he has no remorse whatsoever. He is beyond evil. He's on another level. He's a murderer who enjoys seeing other people suffer and continue to suffer. He's destroyed that family inside and out, and they will never be the same again.
And for Jamie's older brother John, the pain was too much to bear.
He turned to drugs. He did turn to drugs because he couldn't handle things. He just went in his own world. He wouldn't speak to nobody. And John committed suicide 5 years ago.
John had that element of feeling responsible for what happened. He will have been worrying, he'll have been feeling guilty. He took his own life, and there is no doubt that was the result of Vickers, the person who killed his brother.
Jamie's buried at Droylsden Cemetery. His elder brother, John, is with him. And I think that's got something to do with Darren Vickers because John carried that guilt all his life, basically. And it's always played on my mind, did Darren Vickers do something to John? He was always withdrawn and quiet, but he never ever said anything. I'll never know now. I've never known what's happened to Jamie, but I wish I did. And I wish I knew where the rest of him was, so he could be put back together. He's took Jamie, he's took John. He's ripped my family apart.